What's up, YouTube? It's Johnny America back again with another video. Let's jump right into it. I'm not going to waste your time, but we got to talk about Tucker Carlson. Oh, yes. We got to edit that out. We got to talk about Tucker Carlson interviewing Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee is the ambassador to Israel from America. But Tucker calls him out a lot, and they have this interview. I suggest you go watch it. Go watch Tucker on Tucker Carlson Network. It's got 5.2 million subscribers. Woo! He almost got as many as me. But anyway, check out Tucker on this interview, and we're going to go over some of it. I was watching it a minute ago. I'm not going to lie to you, and I just like, wait, I need to record some of this. So I'm gonna go back a little bit and just watch some of this together. We can watch some of it together. This is the part where he starts to kind of press him on some of the stuff about Israel. You know, of course, that's the main thing he's going to talk about. So let's get into
Justice Department, because it is a DOJ issue, and it would be handled through DOJ, the U.S., to the court systems in Israel. That's how it would be handled.
But the first step is the Israeli government saying, yes, we will allow you to extradite this person back. The person is being shielded by the government. That's why the person's here. That's why he fled here, so he wouldn't have to stand trial for trying to molest a child. I want to get to as I said at the outset, I said something awful that I regret that my wife barked at me about. I lashed out at Christian Zionists and evangelicals, and I just want to say again that I'm sorry. I've always liked them because they're pro-life and they're also really nice people. So for the third time, I'm sorry that I said that. I think part of my problem was I don't understand the theology, and you are not a fake Baptist minister. You're an actual minister. You've had a church for many years. You're an actual theologian. So, and I mean this with sincerity. I hear people say, those who bless Israel will be blessed. I know it's a reference to Genesis. I don't understand the connection between that concept and modern Israel and the geopolitical. And so I'm going to stand back and
let's first define, because
now this is where Ted Cruz lost it at. This is the question. Those who bless Israel is blessing the modern state of the military complex of Israel right now. Like, it's not the same. But this is where Tucker got Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was like, yeah, my Bible says that. He didn't even Ted Cruz didn't even know where the scripture was found at. I'm sure Huckabee probably does. He used to be a minister or something like that, or he was a pastor of a church, his own church or something. But Ted Cruz got annihilated on this question from Tucker. And let's just see together, because I haven't seen this part of how Mike Huckabee responds to this question. And let's get into it.
You know, from my days as a debater in high school and college, one of the things I knew, you didn't start the debate till you defined the terms.
Amen.
Let's define it.
Thank you.
What is a Christian Zionist?
Okay.
What does that mean to you? What does it mean?
I don't know. It's the people who call me a Nazi for asking what Israel means. I mean, that's kind of my problem.
Yeah, but here's the point. If you say a Christian Zionist is a person who has a brain virus and is guilty of heresy, that's a pretty big charge.
I shouldn't have made it. I made it out of anger and ignorance.
So,
and I'm
Christian, I think we can agree, is somebody who follows Jesus.
And that's fair. At least he admits, like, hey, I said something that I shouldn't have meant. This is, I don't want to keep saying this so many times throughout the video, but I think I will. This is why I like Tucker. This is why I like people like, oh, you like Tucker? Yes. People in the hood, black people be asking me, oh, why you listen to Tucker? Because Tucker keeps it real. He's asking real questions to the real people. He's not tiptoeing over stuff. I like Tucker. Let's let him finish, though.
Christ exactly has a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, believes in his death, burial, resurrection, has repented of one's sins, and have accepted him as one Savior. Would that be fair? Christian. Define that. Zionist. A Zionist simply means a person who believes that the Jewish people have a right to have a homeland where they have security and safety. Did you believe that the Jews have a right to live in Israel? Do you believe that Jews have a right to live in Israel? That would be a Zionist. That's all a Zionist is.
I have a million questions
Okay.
about what all of those terms mean.
Yeah.
But conceptually, I wish Israel no harm. I don't want to see them.
You want them to have a place where they could live with safety?
Well,
and
let me.
security?
So I saw this recently in an extremely telling exchange between the lieutenant governor of Texas, who I know and I've always liked, and a woman I don't know, never met, who's on the Religious Liberty Commission or something. And she said, I'm a Catholic, but I'm not a Zionist. And they have this ferocious exchange. And he kept saying, everyone on the panel seemed to keep saying, you have to believe in Israel's right to exist, which I've never kind of questioned, just for the record. But it did raise two questions I think are really important. And I hope you'll answer them. One is, where does that right come from?
I mean, it comes from, essentially, you could say it comes from the Bible. I would say that it does. But it comes also from a long iteration of historical precedents going to the Balfour Declaration of 1917. It comes from the League of Nations 1927.
Notice what he won't say right here. That Israel, the people of Israel has a right to exist. He could have easily answered this question and said, well, it comes from God. Like, all people have a right to exist. I don't know why my camera is shifted over here. Everybody has a right to exist, but he don't want to say that, because then he'd have to agree that Palestinians have a right to exist. So he's saying, oh, it comes from the Balfour, this and this and that. Like, bruh, no, say where it really comes from.
From the United Nations 1947, right? The Declaration of Independence of the Israel State, May of 1948. They were immediately attacked. They won the war. They were attacked again in 1956. They won the war. They were attacked again in 1967 by 5 countries. They won the war. They were attacked again in 1973 in the Yom Kippur War. They won the war. The point is, does Israel have a right to exist? They also had wars in 1982 in Lebanon. They've had intifadas, 2 of those. They've had
Lebanon knows the existence.
I don't think anybody's against Israel having a right to exist. And if they are, that's far, far, far extreme. Nobody just don't want people to exist. I mean, that was what the little mustache man was on, right? He didn't want them to exist. But that's over. Everybody agrees that that was wrong, terrible, blah, blah, blah. So I don't think that's a problem anymore.
There. No, I'm very familiar with the modern history of the state. Okay, pretty familiar, I think.
Zionist simply means somebody who believes that Israel has a right to exist. Now, the question is, do you believe Israel has a right to exist?
Yes. I mean, I want it to exist. Well, no, but I want to know what that means. So, like, do other countries have a right to exist?
Well, they do exist.
Do they have a right to exist?
There it is. See, I told you. I told you. I told you. I told you. That's where Tucker was going to take that. Because do other countries have a right to exist? And notice he didn't say yeah. He said, well, do they exist? Like, you see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Just let him. I'm going to let him keep going.
You keep saying Israel has a right to exist, and I want to know what other countries
have a legal right, because every international body in the last 100 years has said the Jewish people have a right.
I understand
to indigenous homeland. My question, that's illegal.
Think about how stupid Huckabee is sounding right now. Israel has a right to exist because every political body has said they have a right to exist. What about the rest of the world? Do Africans have a right to exist? Do the people of Congo have a right to exist? Do the people of Gaza have a right to exist? He doesn't want to say that, so he only wants to focus on Israel's right to exist.
What do they have a biblical right? I would say that yes, but you may say they don't.
I don't know. I'm actually sincerely interested in finding out what you mean by biblical right. But first, to the legal right, does any other country on the planet have the same right that Israel has to exist?
Well, you could say, does Jordan have a right to exist when it was
He won't say yes. Dude will not answer the question. Dude will not say, well, you could say, what do you mean you could say? Do they or do they not?
Jordan and the Brits came and divided up the Middle East, and they gave some land to Jordanians, and they gave some land to the Saudis, and they gave some land to various Middle Eastern countries, and it was all carved up. And the French gave Lebanon its right to exist. Do they have a right to exist?
Do they?
Well, why not?
Okay, so that's fine. So every country.
Does the U.S. have a right to exist?
I'm asking you.
Okay, and I'm telling you, I think the U.S. has a right to exist. Okay, we came here. We came there. We're in Israel now talking. But does the U.S. have a right to exist? Does anyone question whether we have a right to exist?
I don't. Yeah, but I, of course, I'm for America. You know.
For you.
But so every current country on the map has the same right to exist that Israel has. Is that what you're saying?
I think what we're saying is that when a country has established itself and it is following international law, it has been deemed by numerous bodies that it is indigenous to its homeland, as Israel is. This is its homeland. It goes back 3,800 years to the time of Abraham. It's not that the Jewish people just showed up here in 1948 and said, we're going to have some land.
Hold on. So those are 2 different tracks, and I just want to make sure that we separate them so I understand each one separately.
All right.
So you're saying there's the modern legal framework, and so you said a country that abides by international law has a right to exist.
I would say that that is a part of its existence.
Would the inverse be true that a country that does not abide by international law forfeits its right to exist?
Not necessarily, if it has the capacity to stay and make its case known. But there have been Jewish people in this land, in this very land, for 3,800 years.
Okay. So, but you're saying as the modern nation state with borders and a military and a Knesset and just all the kind of trappings of a modern country, all of which I support, that country has, every country on the planet has the same right as Israel to exist because it does exist. Is that what you're saying? I'm just trying to understand the concept here.
Well, I think what we're trying to get to is Christian Zionism, and you've taken this way off the road.
I know that I have. I don't need to. Christian Zionism is a separate thing, but I just keep hearing people say Zionism is the belief.
That's the fundamental argument that's going on. Does Israel have a right to live in their indigenous, ancient, historical land, a land that has been affirmed throughout international organizations?
I don't think that is the argument. I'm going to stop interrupting, but that's not the argument. Nobody's arguing that.
A land that has direct ties to the Jewish people.
I just want to know if this is a universal principle. I guess that's what I'm getting at, because if it's not, then it's meaningless to me. Because as a Christian, I believe in universal principles. Something is right for everyone, or it's wrong for everyone.
If the
You
Jews
don't
didn't-
believe in special
But
kids.
here's the question: if the Jews didn't have this land, would the Jews have a right to any land?
I don't know. I'm not attacking the Jews. I'm asking if this applies to every people in every nation. Does every nation have the same right to its own homeland, to its own physical land that you say Israel does?
I feel like we're in a rabbit hole here.
No, I think it's a very straightforward question.
No, but
does that right extend to other countries other than Israel?
The most important thing that is
We're in a rabbit hole, Mike Huckabee. And just so you know, I'm an electrician. I'm on the job site. I'm on my lunch. And everybody can see through the BS. We're not in a rabbit hole. You're avoiding answering the question because you don't want to answer it. Because you know it would show that what Israel has been doing to Gaza and the Palestinian people is wrong. It's wrong. But instead of admitting it, you want to go through the rabbit hole. You want to drive through the rabbit hole and loops and flips and, well, back in 1948, man, F all of that. Do they have a right to exist?
going on in our culture right now is whether or not the people that are yelling in the streets from the river to the sea, whether that's a legitimate point of view to say that there should not be a Jewish homeland. There should not be a Jewish
You'll
state.
never hear me say it. I just want to
know you haven't said it, but
if
that's the argument.
One of the arguments going on globally, and the United States, excuse me, has a pretty narrow view, I would say, in our media culture, what's happening around the world. There are plenty of countries having this debate. Stonehenge is a lot older than the first temple in Israel, and it was built by the same people who live there now. It's the same people, and they are being pushed off their island and outnumbered by people from other places. And so in Great Britain, in Ireland, which is also a country with a nation of people, a race, if you will, that is being displaced, replaced.
Who are they being replaced by?
Immigrants.
Okay.
From other places.
I just want to clarify because I was one of the.
Well, just as a demographic matter, it's just like you can look at the numbers. It's not controversial. Just look at the numbers. There'll be a minority in their country, and their people have been there longer than Jews have been in Israel, and so they're having this debate too. That's all I'm saying. And lots of places are having this debate. Sure. So does that principle apply to everyone, or is it specific just to Israel?
I think it applies specifically to Israel. It applies to anyone who can prove that they have some connection to the land and connection to the history and connection to international law. But Israel, I think, does have an extraordinary
international law. So if again,
no, but let me finish this. Yes, sir. Because here's the point. We're talking about Christian Zionism. The idea that as a Christian, I believe in both the Old and the New Testament. Why wouldn't I? I'm a person of the book. There are 80 million evangelical Christians in the United States. What makes us who we are is our adherence to the Scripture, our belief that the Bible, all of it, not part of it, but all of it, is the Word of the living God.
Yeah.
So if I believe in the Old and the New Testament, I do believe that there is a very specific call to the Jewish people that started with Abraham, and he called them out of what is now modern day Iraq, said, "Come where I send you." He came. This is the land. Genesis 12:3. He says, "I will bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you." In Genesis 17, he looks out at the world. He says, "Look, this is where I'm giving you the land." I think since that time, there have been people living in this land connected to that moment of history. So there is a historical connection.
I'm not even broken. You've said that, and I want to ask you what that means a little more specifically, if
Okay.
that's okay. But first, let me just say that you could say the same thing of Britons who've been there in their land longer.
Is anybody trying to tell the Brits they can't live there anymore?
No, what's happening
But
is
they are saying that to the Jews.
Oh, okay. But I just wonder if you would extend the same sympathy or the same principle. You seem like this is. You think I'm trying to trap you? I'm not. I'm at all trying to trap you. It'd be as simple as saying native Britons have
I
the
got no
same
problem with the native Brits having their land.
having the rights.
I don't know that there is a biblical connection for the Brits.
Okay.
But I would say so take that off the table. And I think there's still a basis for the Jews having this little bitty strip of real estate. And it is
not even arguing with you. I'm just trying to I'm just trying to understand what it is that you're saying, because it's not obvious to me, and maybe it's an IQ problem, but I'm having trouble understanding. But let me just go back to just clarify one thing.
Okay.
You've brought up international at least twice, maybe three times, as a basis for Israel's legitimacy. If Israel was out of compliance with international law, whatever that is, would it be less legitimate?
Depends on if the law and the way it's applied is legitimate. There's
Every answer. It depends. It depends. Well, it depends. It depends. It depends. It depends. It depends. Trust me. I'm not going to say trust me, bro, but trust me, bro. They are not interested in sharing the land with anyone else. That's the problem. It's not that somebody else don't want to share the land with them. They don't want to share the land peacefully and fairly and equitably with the Palestinian people. That's what I'm getting.
applications of so-called international law that are not legitimate. Look at the ICC or the ICJ. Utterly ridiculous. One of the reasons I'm so grateful President Trump and Secretary Rubio are pushing hard, trying to get rid of the ICC and the ICJ, is because they have become rogue organizations that are no longer really about an equal application of law and justice.
I don't know enough about it to say if that's true or not. But I'm interested that you yourself appeal to international law as a basis of Israel's.
Well, what I'm looking at is the whole of the last 100 years.
The Balfour Declaration is not exactly international law, by the way.
It was an I think. It was maybe not law, but it was a declaration. It was an assumption and a declaration that was done by Lord Balfour in Great Britain. At that time, this land was under the British mandate. And he said the Jews should have the land that was theirs from 3,800 years ago. It was simple as that.
Right. And I'm not debating that. I just, it was not international law. It was a colonial power saying, okay.
But then later it was international law under the League of Nations, under the United Nations. And then because of the victories that Israel had against those who tried to annihilate them, and it wasn't just that they were trying to take a little piece of their land, they tried to annihilate them.
Okay.
And there is still to this day the shouts of from the river to the sea. And Tucker, that means only one thing, not the shrinking of Israel, but the annihilation of Israel.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, I know what Tucker's about to say here. Someone saying from the river to the sea doesn't mean that. That's how you take that. That's how you want to take that so that you can arm yourself to do what you're doing, which is basically a holocaust of the Palestinian people.
Say that you know what it means actually because you don't know what's in people's hearts.
Exactly.
So deal with the facts. Maybe some people mean it.
I know it's in
mean
their
that.
mouths. I know it's in their minds.
But I'm not.
How?
You'll never hear me say that. What you will hear me say is I'm confused by what the definitions are. So let's go through this. You've appealed to Genesis. Genesis 15 says it's Abram. It's pre-Abraham. It's Abram receives from God the news that his descendants will inherit the land. And you tell me as the theologian if I'm getting this wrong, but from the Euphrates to the Nile. I think that's right. And that would include like basically the entire Middle East. That would be the Levant. So that would be Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. It would also be big parts of Saudi Arabia and Iraq. It would be,
I'm not sure it would go that far. I mean, it would be a big piece of land. But here's the
it
point.
would be a lot of places that are now countries.
That this particular area that we're talking about.
See what Tucker doing. This is why I like Tucker. Because he's making a valid point. If the scripture says that, so no wonder you're trying this expansionist government type of thing. No wonder you're attacking these people. So it's not just about the Palestinian people that's in Israel and the Gaza Strip. No, it's more. You're going here, and here next. Am I right? And what Trump I called him Trump. What Tucker is saying is just that. Like, wait, the scripture says all this, which is included. And he said, I wouldn't go that far. Yeah, you won't go that far today. Where are you going tomorrow? Where are you going next? You've struck more people in Israel than Israel has struck more people in 2025 than anybody. Like if there's like 9 different countries you've struck in that area. And they'd be like, oh, nobody likes us. Huh? Everybody wants to pick on us. Huh? Like, what are you talking about? You're the reason why people are picking on you. And not even picking on you, you're the reason why people are defending themselves from you.
Now, Israel is a land that God gave through Abraham to a people that he chose. It was a people, a place, and a purpose. We can look at it that way. Christian Zionism, I want to go back because
here's the problem with that. And I'm not going to interrupt it I'm going to go 5 minutes without interrupting, I promise, after this. The problem with that is you have to be fair and understanding to everybody. Like I'm a Christian, born and raised Christian. But I told my wife the other day, I'm like, Christianity is, and the belief of God is subjective. Yeah, you believe in it. I believe in it. But people in China don't believe in it. People in China may worship Buddha or whatever. Like people in Saudi Arabia may worship something totally, may worship Allah. Like it's subjective. Let people do what they're gonna do. It's not your job. You can't like dictate what the world worships. Not in the spirit of democracy in America and blah blah blah. You can't dictate that. So what everybody else worships, it's on them. Let them do what they want to do. You don't get to dictate what everybody else does. That's not how it works. Especially when you're not being a good example of it. You're literally the worst example of it.
that's where we started.
I'm not going to let you off on this because you have said 3 times that God gave this land to this people. And so it is entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15 as I have many times. And that land, I think it says from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, like, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all. But I don't think that's what we're talking about here today.
What would be fine? Well, it's exactly what we're talking about today.
But here's what I don't think
you think it would be fine if the state of Israel took over all.
They don't want to take it over. They're not asking to take it over.
But you're saying that the reason that Israel is legitimate, has this inherent right to exist, is because, in part, because God gave it to his people. And I am going to the same Bible that you're referring to and noticing that that is a huge piece of land. So if God gave them that land, then they have a right to take it now by your definition, unless I'm missing something.
Well, I think you're missing something because they're not asking to go back to take all of that, but they are asking to at least take the land that they now occupy, they now live in, they now own legitimately. And it is a safe haven for them.
But may I ask though, because you're explaining what Christian Zionism is and your theological beliefs. And you think you just said it would be fine with you if the state of Israel took all of Jordan, all of Syria, all of Lebanon,
That's really not exactly what I'm trying
I'm
to
asking, is that what you said? I thought that's what you just said.
It was somewhat of a hyperbolic statement in that, if that's what you feel like that we're talking about, but it isn't. We're talking about this land that Israel, the state of Israel, now lives in and wants to have peace in. They're not trying to take over Jordan. They're not trying to take over Syria. They're not trying to take over Iraq or anywhere else. But they do want to protect their people. No, they're not trying to take over Lebanon.
But you're saying that
At this time. At this time, they're not. See the problem? Do y'all see the problem? Like, it's just going to continue to grow and grow. Once they get this, then they're going to go get that. Once they get that, then they're going to go. It's the same thing. That's why they want to disarm everybody. Oh, yeah, get rid of your nukes. Get rid of your nukes. No, you don't need no missiles. Come on. They wanted Iran to get rid of their nukes. They went over there and destroyed their nukes with the help of our tax dollars, by the way. Destroyed their nuke system or whatever. Boom. Okay, fine. Now they got no more nukes. Y'all good. Give your missiles too. Like, bro, we're not giving you our missiles so you can come and do what you're about to do any day now and attack us. They're not giving that up. Like, they have been bullying the world. They have been bullying the world. I personally think, allegedly, that America has been bullied by Israel as well. Bullied and blackmailed. You know what I think we're blackmailed about right now? The fact that Epstein, in my opinion, allegedly, is not dead. And that he is over there. They got him out, and he's over there. I think you got to be really, really dumb to think that he's not dead. I don't mean to call you dumb, I swear. But just think. Why would they kill him? Why would they not? They once you see a lapse in the video, first of all, there was another whole back door. This one guy did a whole thing of that whole cell. This man, in my opinion, is alive. But let's go back. And I think they're holding that over the United States head as a bargaining chip. Oh, now we'll tell them that he's live. We already know it. We already know. We don't care. We're not stupid. But we do care, but we don't care. We're not shocked that our government has lied to us.
a religious man, as a Christian Zionist, you agree with a lot of religious communities here in Israel that the justification for this country is theological. It's a contract between God and his people. And I'm telling you that that contract includes a tract of land that is much larger than the current nation state.
So you may be a bigger Zionist than even the Jews are that live in
I'm trying to understand the.
He's so full of it. Oh, so full of it. I just do not like people that are just full of it. Huckabee is full of it. Oh, you may be a bigger Zionist. You know that's the plan. You know that's the ultimate plan, and you're trying to act like, we wasn't talking about going over there next. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Implications of your theology for geopolitics, because you're saying that the present government of Israel has a moral right to take over what are now other people's countries.
No, I didn't say that.
Then what are you saying?
I'm simply saying that the people who live in Israel, I think, have a right to have security, have safety. They have a right to be able to live in this land that they have a connection to for 30.
I told myself when I said the not to get annoyed, but as someone who is, the father of daughters, when I see child molesters hiding in Israel and escaping American justice, I think I have a right to safety in my country too. So you can understand that I think most people feel they have a right to safety. I do think Israel has a right to safety, and I hope that for them. And I'm sincere, but I'm an American, and I have a right to safety in my country too. You do agree? And I think so. But I just want to get to this point.
Of course you do.
If Israel were to say, God gave us in Genesis 15 all of Lebanon, all of Syria, all the way up to Iraq, would that be legitimate in your view?
I don't think in this particular day and time they're asking for it.
Would it be legitimate?
I'm not sure that it would.
Boom. Boom. There you go. You heard it. I told you. What did I say? Yeah, not now. Not now. They're not trying to get that now. But what did Huckabee say? Oh, not in this day and time. Exactly. You can't base today off the Bible, and I am a Christian. I'm sorry. You can't base land and borders and you cannot do that. First of all, it'll take you to really understand the scriptures to know that Abraham was never that his promise wasn't to the people of his son Judah. That's what it was. It was for all of Abraham's seed. And what Jesus say in the New Testament, that we're all children of Abraham. It's ridiculous. They're gaslighting us on the scriptures to do crazy atrocities in the Lord's name. It's really it pisses me off, to be honest.
be.
Why? Because you just said that
Well,
God
because
gave
I
it to
think
them.
that there is an understanding that the people of Israel today, now, if they end up getting attacked by all these places and they win that war and they take that land, then okay, that's a whole nother discussion.
Wow.
But you and I started out we started talking about something simple, Christian
Wow.
Zionism.
But it turns out,
and now you,
because I don't. The core of Christian Zionism, you said,
That's it.
you, is the understanding, the belief, the theological understanding that Jews have a moral and legal. We went through the biblical moral deriving from the biblical. The promises in our Bible, which we share with the Jewish people, the first part of the Old Testament,
The first
that it derives from God's promise to
Only.
the Jews. And so I have two questions. What are the borders of that? And who are those people in 2026? And you're not the first person I've asked, but you're the most reasonable, most gentle, most theologically informed person. So I'm really hoping for an answer. The first question was the borders. I can't get an answer. Yeah, those borders are. So I'm going to give up. But the second question is every bit as pressing, which is who are the people? Who are the modern? Yes, who are the descendants? So we know, and I believe, and I agree with you as a Christian, that God promised this land from modern day Iraq to modern day Egypt to this people, the Jews, to Abram's, actually not to Abram's descendants, as it says in Genesis 15. Who are his descendants now, and how do we know who they are?
I think they're the Jews, and we know who they are because they've always been a Jewish people. There has been an unbroken line of Jewish people, and they've lived in this land for 3,800 years. Sometimes not very many of them because they were chased out all over the world. They were hunted down. They were almost annihilated during the Holocaust. They came back. To this day, Tucker, they represent, you know how many Jews there are in the whole world?
Please,
No, but
I understand. First of all, the greatest genocide of Jews no one ever mentions was by the Romans, where they were literally banned from Jerusalem for 500 years.
Yeah, of course.
And it's all awful. And I'm opposed to all of that. I'm opposed to mass killing of anybody, period. I'm opposed
I
to
hear you say that.
I mean it.
Yeah,
And hope
I
you
believe
agree
that.
on
I believe that.
My question is, and it's not a bumper sticker answer, it's a sincere answer. How do we know? Because what you're saying is that certain people have a title to a highly contested region. They own it in some deep sense. So I think it's fair to ask, who are they and how do we know? So the current prime minister's ancestors weren't from here within recorded history. He has no deed. Bibi Netanyahu, on one side, his family's from Poland. They're from Eastern Europe. So how do we know that he has a connection to the people who God promised the land to, Abram's descendants? How do we know that?
Well, if you take the genealogies that come not only from the Old but the New Testament, you see that there is a historical connection through the entirety of the Old and the New Testament that details the Jewish connection to this land.
Does that include Bibi's family? How do we know that if his family
But they were
comes here,
scattered.
how do we know it's the same people? I don't know. Why is that crazy? If you say to me,
If they speak the same language, if they worship the same God, if they follow the same Bible, if they follow the same cultures and traditions, and they always pray next year in Jerusalem, and they pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and they pray facing toward Jerusalem, does that not give you a little bit of a clue as to who they
well,
are?
let's go through those things because I would like to have a rational. This is a conversation I've wanted. Bless you. Thank you for doing this. Let's just go through those things.
Okay.
So one of the things I admire most about Israel is they resurrected a dead language in 1948. Good for them.
Well, they really didn't resurrect it. It was existent.
But
It is a compliment. It's like, no, but it is the first time in all of human history that a language has survived through this length of time. It's. I would call it. You might not, but I would call it a miracle. One of many.
Okay.
That you can attribute to
Netanyahu,
this.
I think it's wonderful as someone who loves language. Netanyahu's parents did not speak Hebrew. Okay. They didn't live in this region. Netanyahu, the founders of this country, were mostly secular. Some of them were avowed atheists. They were not praying for the peace of Jerusalem. They weren't praying at all because they didn't believe in God. There's no genealogy linking their families to the people of this land 3,000 years ago. They're not. So how do we know, since they didn't share a language, they didn't share a religion, they had no religion whatsoever, how do we know that they had a right to come here from Eastern Europe and
But they were taken away. They were scattered to Eastern Europe. They were scattered all over the world. There were many in Ethiopia. They were in Russia. They were in Poland. They were
he's saying everything except the answer to the question.
throughout Asia. Jews were all over the place, but they were still Jews. But they were still Jews.
Okay,
That's
so
what
let
made
me
it.
get to the nub of the question, since again, a lot is at stake, a lot of money is at stake. Land is very valuable. Israel has a lot of resources. By the way, if you're accused of crime, you can hide here. That's a pretty good passport to have. It's a good thing, right? So who's entitled to it? I don't understand, and you're very discouraged in the United States from asking this question for some reason. It's a totally rational.
I'm not discouraged.
You're not discouraged. Yeah, others do. You're like the only person I get this conversation with. Everyone's like, shut up. See, it's a foundational question. Are you speaking of an ethnic group or a religious group?
Well, I think you're looking at, for many people, it is religious. There are people who may not have a deep religious connection to Judaism, but they're still Jews.
Okay, so it's ethnic category.
It is ethnic, but it is also religious. It is rooted in religion. You can't take it out of it. Now, that means
then
there's
how
some
can
people,
an atheist?
I'll tell you this. There are some people who say, I'm Christian. They never go to church. They never pray. They never read their Bible. They don't tithe.
But they're not entitled to citizenship on the basis of that. They're not entitled
They
to.
still call themselves Christian, even though they identify in that way.
Here's the difference. You're saying that people who have this identification have a deed to a huge chunk of land on the Mediterranean. Okay, so there's, it's a right. You keep telling me it's a right, and so it's totally fair to say if you come to my house and say I've got the title to your house, I get to ask you, may I see it? Where'd you get it? And that's exactly what happened here. People from Europe, Eastern Europe, came here. In a lot of cases, atheists, and kicked out a lot of people who lived here.
Land.
Well, but
They did not just throw people
they
out.
bought a lot of land. There's no
They
question
bought
about
a lot of land.
But they also, in
All that
1948, kicked out a lot of people.
in the war.
It was a war. I agree. I'm not
Yeah,
want to
okay.
relitigate the history. I'm just saying it's a fact.
Okay.
Including a lot of Christians. A lot of Christians wound up fleeing, and they lost their homes, so they've never been allowed back. And all of this was justified on the basis of this identity that is the ticket to the right that you keep referring to. So my question is very simple. I'm going to wait patiently for an answer. Does this right derive from religious affiliation or from genetics?
I say it's both. But I would also say that when you say the Christians were kicked out, Tucker, Christianity is growing in Israel.
Okay,
and there is a big lie that goes out there. But no, let me finish this, because I keep hearing that Christians are really not treated well in Israel. That's a lie.
Well, there are lots of
lie.
There are lots of
There were
different.
34,000 Christians in Israel in 1948. There are 184,000 Christians here today.
And by Israel, what are you counting?
You talking about the land?
What territory are you counting? You're counting Israel proper? Are you counting
Israel.
West Bank as well and Gaza? I mean, what do you, when you say Israel, those numbers apply to what landmass?
It would be in Israel proper.
Okay.
There's 184,000. Now, I'll tell you where Christians are not doing very well. They're not doing very well in the Muslim-controlled countries.
Oh.
There's almost no Christians in Qatar, for example, except those who live in the Christian ghetto, or the service workers.
I'm sorry. I don't want to argue with you. There are many more Christians in Qatar than there are in Israel.
That's not true.
What actually is true. And I refer you to Wikipedia, Mr. Ambassador.
Wikipedia.
I refer you to the government of Qatar, the government of Israel. These are knowable facts. Like I'm
in Jordan,
by the way,
numbers are down. In Syria,
Which Wikipedia is controlled by you know who.
the numbers are down. And
Just saying,
numbers are down.
there
Just
are
tell you that
about twice as many Christians.
but they live in the enclave. They are not native Qataris.
Okay, we're mixing so many different categories here. I'm just saying, I get things wrong all the time. You've just gotten something wrong. I think it's important to acknowledge it. There are many more Christians in part of the Israel.
How many?
Now you caught me. I don't know. I can look at my phone, but I was just there and whatever. But I just want to get to the point that forms the basis of this whole conversation, which is who has a right to the land?
Yeah.
And you said it's a mixture of religion and ethnicity. Because as I noted, and you agree, many of the founders, maybe the majority of the founders of modern Israel, did not believe in God at all. So they were not religious Jews. They weren't religious at all. They were atheists. She said they were atheists. I believe them. So that suggests it's ethnic. But it's also true, as you well know, there's a famous court case about this, that ethnic Jews who convert to Christianity do not have the right of return. That was settled by the Israeli Supreme Court. I'm very confused. So that would suggest it's not ethnicity, because you invalidate your Jewishness by converting to Christianity.
There are a number of Messianic Jews who live in Israel. Who are here.
I'm aware of
It's a
I'm aware of
significant
that
number.
But you're not contesting what I'm saying, because it's a very famous court case.
The right of return has to do with your mother, your grandmother. It has to do with family
it's
ties. There's a lot of, sure, ethnicity is a big part of the right of return.
Great.
To make aliyah, then to come to Israel, to live here.
Then if both of your parents are Jewish and you have an ethnic right to land, you are one of Abram's descendants, but you convert to Christianity, how is it you don't have the right to return? I'm totally confused.
I know a number of people who have returned as Christians, but have Jewish history.
Are you saying that Jews who convert to Christianity have a right, a legal right to return? Because
I know that they do.
He can't answer anything straight, and that's how you know when someone's lying.
When you say, do they have a right to return? Do they prove?
It's a legal category, as in any government.
Which is by their family history, their grandmother, their mother, and there are many aspects of that. I know that these are people who were Christian, and they came here, made aliyah. They had Jewish blood, Jewish history. They were Christian, Messianic, but they came here, and they were welcomed here.
And they were given full legal rights.
Absolutely.
And a passport. Yeah. So clearly, it's not true that you invalidate your right of return by converting to Christianity. That's just false.
I'm not aware of that. I know that there are a number of Christians here. I go to church with Christians every week here.
Of course.
And there's
you have a right to come and say, I'm an ethnic Jew, even though I practice Christianity. Therefore, I have every bit as much right to move into a settlement in the West Bank or into East Jerusalem or anywhere I want, Galilee, anywhere, because I'm returning to the land of my forefathers. I have a legal right in the state of Israel, even though I've converted to Christianity. You're saying that's true?
I'm saying I know people who've done it. Now, can I tell you what the law specifically is? I'm not sure.
Well, it's really
I'm a Christian. I'm not.
You're the ambassador.
So therefore, I cannot quote you the law. If you want me to do that, I'll look at it.
Well, it really matters because you're saying, in fact, people in the United States are being called anti-Semites, a lot of them, including me, because they somehow don't believe that Israel has a right to this land.
Do you think Israel has a right to this land?
No, you haven't defined what the land is, and you haven't defined who Israel is. So I really don't know.
It is the land they're living in now, the borders that they have.
The borders are moving. The borders have moved in the last year.
What do you mean the borders have moved?
Well, they are the 1967 borders. I'm including, the
East
West,
Jerusalem and
East
Judea
Jerusalem
and Samaria.
What are the borders of Judea and Samaria?
Well, you basically take the Jordan River, and it's west of the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, to the Lebanon border. And Israel did have control of the Sinai. They gave that to Egypt. They had control of it.
Right.
I gave it away in 1979 in the peace agreement.
But okay, so whatever you call it, the land that was taken from Jordan in 1967, you call it Judea and Samaria. There's a significance to that I don't fully understand. I'm against it.
It's the biblical.
It's the biblical.
80% of the Bible happened in Judea and Samaria.
I've also established that the Bible gives Jews the right to occupy the land from the Nile to the Euphrates. So I'm very confused by why we've shrunk the land and why we're
Israel has shrunk the land. They have made that decision. That's why they gave away.
Now's
they've given away a lot of things.
Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct?
Yes.
So here's the problem with that. If they shrunk the land and they gave this to other countries, they gave away some of Iraq and all of that, what's to stop them from trying to take it back? What's to stop them from annihilating other countries in the name of God in the name of, oh, God gave us this land. What's to stop them? Like, there's nothing that would stop them. That's plan B. Like, we're still on plan A, B, and C. Don't go to D, E, F, and G yet. We ain't there yet. We're not there quite yet. So we're here. We'll get there later. He said, not in this time. I don't know. Not maybe later they'll do it. Not no maybe. That's what they're going to do.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that. Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
I have no idea what that would prove. I mean, maybe it would be.
What do you mean? What it would prove?
What do you mean you don't have any idea what it would prove? It would prove who are the actual descendants of Abraham. Let's do it. Sign them up. Y'all got DNA? Let's do it. He don't want to do that. Know why he don't want to do that? Because what happened is it would disprove so many people that are there illegally, according to the Bible and the law and the genetics.
Who Abram's descendants are and who has a right to live here and who doesn't, according to the theology that you yourself just explained. And so I'm very confused as to why we don't do that. If you believe the theology that you just explained to me,
we do that all over the world. And everybody
this is the only country in the world that you've said has this covenant with God, that this people have a moral and legal right to the land.
What about people who convert to Judaism? Would they have a right?
Well, you've just said
I mean, there are converts to Judaism, so
you just told
they
me
can make Aliyah. They may not have.
You've just
DNA.
told me that it doesn't matter. You told me moments ago, I can track,
Okay.
that it doesn't matter whether or not you believe in God or whether or not you practice Torah Judaism or Rabbinic Judaism, which is something else that I don't even know if we should, I don't even know what that means. But it doesn't matter whether you're, quote, a religious Jew or not. What matters is that you are part of the Jewish people to whom God gave this land that extends from the Nile to the Euphrates. And so if you believe that, wouldn't you want to know with a burning passion who those people are? And because of science, we can now know who those people are. So why aren't we finding out?
I guess you could propose a DNA test for everybody who comes here, everybody who lives here. But the
I'm
point,
comfortable with secular nation states where it's none of this is done on the basis of blood. I'm uncomfortable with that. I'll just say that.
but there are people who may not have bloodlines, but who have converted to Judaism. Are they going to be able to live here? Are you going to kick them out?
By your standards, they can't live here.
No, no,
because you
I've
just
never said- no, no,
and
no.
they have a right to live here because God gave them the land because they're the descendants of Abram.
They're the descendants of Abraham, but if they're the spiritual descendants of Abraham, and they've now.
This is why I love Tucker. He's tying him up into a knot with his own words, his own things. He said this. These are the descendants of Abraham. Okay, well, let's prove it. Oh, wait. What about the people that converted? Oh, yeah. Because look at his face. He knows. He knows he's lying. He knows he's full of it. And these are your preachers. They can't answer these questions. They don't know because they're allegedly, in my opinion, they are liars. Liars.
Decided that they're converting to Judaism, then do they have a right to live in Israel?
Well, there's a whole legal literature in Israel on that question. And my understanding is that certain types of modern Judaism qualify a person and other types don't. Is that your understanding? I don't believe that people converted, and I could have this wrong, but I know people who face this personally. People, I don't believe people who've converted in a Reform synagogue have the right of return. I don't think that is, because I know people who've married into Jewish families and they find out they don't have the right of return. So that is perplexing to me.
Yeah, I know. My experience is a little different than yours. I know people who have definite Jewish connections, family relations, but now they're Christian. Some are not necessarily practicing Jews. They're not. They're more secular Jews, as you've discussed. But they come back here.
Okay, I'm not against that. I'm just wondering, since you began this conversation by asking me, did I think they had a right to come here?
Yeah, that's
my question was, on what basis do they have the right? And you said because God granted it to them.
And I also said because that there should be a land where Jews could live in peace and safety.
And I asked you what a Jew was, and you couldn't answer it. You said it partly is religious, but doesn't have to be. It's partly genetic, but it doesn't have to be. And so that you can see why
I think I was very clear that being Jewish is an identification either through blood or through faith that you're Jewish. It may be that you're a blood Jew, but you don't necessarily practice Judaism, just like there are people who say they're Christian, but they don't do a thing to demonstrate what Christian.
There are a lot of bad Christians, including me some of the time, a lot of the time. But I don't have a right to real estate on the basis of my claim of Christian.
You don't have a right to real estate if you're talking about a specific parcel. But if you're talking about a land, I think what we're talking about is
that's all. All I'm saying.
And there was a designation to the family of nations of the world that there would be a Jewish homeland. Let's get to that point, because I think you've taken us on several trails here, and I'm not sure we can follow them all. But is there?
No, you've dodged everything he said. You've dodged it. You didn't make sense in none of your answers. You tried to trip up Tucker and all your stupid answers. And now you're trying to act like, no, you've led us on this. No, it's you. It's you, Huckabee. I'm not a politician, and I can tell it's you, sir. It's you.
A reason that the Jewish people that represent, and I want to get back to this because you didn't let me finish a while ago, They represent 0.2% of the world's population. In the entirety of the world, there are about 16 million Jews total, and 8 million of them live here. The rest live mostly in New York or South Florida, and a few other places.
Okay.
So this is a small population of people. They have connection to this land, historically, biblically.
Do they?
Yes, they do.
If Bibi's family, we know they lived in Eastern Europe. There's no evidence they ever lived here. He's not religious.
But ancestrally,
do you have his family tree? No, we don't.
Do you?
He doesn't. So no one does. That's the point.
But
So
if
how do
there
we
is,
know that he's
if they are Jewish, and if there has been a practice of Judaism and a connection to the language, the
He
Bible,
doesn't-
the land,
his ancestors didn't. He doesn't practice
Get him, Tuck. Get him. Get him, Tuck.
Judaism in any rigorous way. His ancestors didn't live here. They didn't speak the language, and there's no evidence they ever lived here. So on what basis does he have a right
very
to be
much
here?
speaks the language. He has fought for the land. His family has
I feel
fought for the
like
land.
you're dodging
No, I'm not.
very guy's question, which is where does this right come from? And the
I've
reason it's
given
meaningful
you that
is
answer.
because there are a lot of people in the territory that Israel controls today, particularly in the West Bank, who, through genetic testing, we can know their families have been here for thousands of years. We don't know whether they practiced Judaism, whether they were Samaritans, pre-Islam. We don't know that. A lot of them we know have been Christians for 2,000 years. They have less of a right to the land than someone whose ancestors, the only thing we know about them is they lived in Latvia or Poland. They're Eastern European. How does that work?
They're Jewish.
By what definition?
They're Jewish by their
But how do we know they have any
ethnicity.
connection
They're
to the
Jewish by
Jews
their
of the
faith. They're Jewish
Bible?
by the connection to the language. Jewish by the connection to the Torah.
But how do we know that Bibi, specifically Bibi's ancestors, ever lived here? How do we know that?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
How do we know if the Prime Minister of Israel's ancestors ever lived?
Maybe I could ask you, how do we know they didn't? I mean,
Well,
there's
it's on the
No, I thought you couldn't understand the question. See how it's misleading and gaslighting? Like, Mike Huckabee is terrible. You are a piece of trash. I'm sorry. Like, you're dodging the questions, and then you say, oh, I don't know, I don't understand the question. And then immediately you try to say, how do I know you? Like, bruh, you do know the question. You're just lying. I don't mean to call somebody a liar. I know that's pretty harsh word, especially for an evangelist or preacher. But, like, come on, bruh.
basis of the claim that they did that all kinds of things happen. People are displaced. There's a money flow. I mean, it's a big question. A lot hangs on this. It's not some theoretical thing like, oh, you know, did my grandparents do this or do that? It's like, no, we have a right to be here because my ancestors were here. Okay, how do we know they were here?
I'm totally unable to process what you're trying to get at.
Wow. 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 Wow, wow, wow. Which part? Which part? How much money is he getting paid? Which part?
It goes back, do Jewish people have any land on this planet that should be theirs?
I feel that way about all peoples. I feel that way about Jewish peoples. I feel that way about.
Okay, then you don't mind them having
Is there any country, let me ask you this bluntly, is there any country that European peoples have a right to exclusively?
I think they have attained their land through conquest. I mean, let's ask
The
ourselves.
Britons attained their land through
Romans,
conquest, and they've always been there.
the Romans, the Greeks, all these.
Let's speak. Well, you can certainly say that here. The Romans controlled this, as you know, and they expelled
They don't anymore.
Jerusalem. Amen. Yeah, I want them to control it. I'm anti-Roman. Okay, we're on the same page. Okay. But my question is very simple. Is there any European peoples that possesses the same right to their land that the Jews, including people whose ancestors lived in Eastern Europe, possess here? The Britons, we know, the British people, the Scandinavian people, the Irish people, their ancestors have been here for thousands of years. That's provable through genetic testing. Do they have a right to their land exclusively?
Is anyone saying they don't?
Yes, of course. Yes. No one will say they will. And I'm asking you, do they have that right?
And I'm not sure what that question involves because
Bruh, oh my God, man. This is the times we live in, man. This is the times we live in, y'all. Like, these people are elected officials and appointed officials getting our tax dollars, and they just sit and they lie and they manipulate and they gaslight and they're like, oh, I don't know, I'm so confused, I don't know nothing anymore. Oh, I'm a big dummy, I don't know the answers to your simple questions. I can't stand this mess. It really bothers me that they just lie and lie and lie and gaslight and gaslight and gaslight. I am just maxed out with this crap. Like, they're so full of it.
one is trying to force them out of their land, of their homes. But here,
Hold on.
you have people.
Why won't you answer that question? Does
Because
any,
I just did.
so the Irish people have the same right to their land that the
I don't
Jews have.
have a biblical connection.
Okay.
But I'm a Bible believer.
Okay.
So that
But
is
it's also a principle, and that is, and you've said it 15 times.
sometimes people have land because they were able to attain it through war. They were able to obtain it when it was challenged.
I understand that. There's
And
all kinds of consequences, but we can't say that about the Irish.
Borders change all the time.
Not actually, the borders of the island of England have not changed, nor the island of Ireland. Those are just two examples. So
Yeah.
you've got the indigenous people there. Do they have a moral right to that as their homeland?
And I think they would probably say, yes, we do, because we have ancient
What do
history.
you think?
I've never thought about whether
Now
they
that I'm raising the question, and you spent a while time thinking about the right of the Jewish people to their homeland. Do the Irish have the same right to a homeland?
as long as they can defend it, and as long as they,
As long as they can defend it.
But Tucker, here's the point. I'm telling you,
Wait, hold on. Now me just flip back. You're the minister here.
Yeah, and I'm telling you,
Yes, they can defend it.
and you're
And if they can't
not
defend it,
allowing me to tell you that I think that what is very, very special here is that there is a biblical as well as an ethnic and a historical. So you can take any one, but if you add them all together, biblical, historical, and ethnic, you have a very strong case that the Jewish people are living in a land that is indigenous to them, that has been their historic homeland for 3,800 years. And you can also look in the archaeology, the stones cry out.
Okay.
You've been to the city of David, for
I
example.
have, oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So you know then that
And I love it.
it's an amazing
I
place.
agree.
It may be the greatest archaeological discovery in all of history because
great.
it's stunning. And they still continue to find things that date the Jewish people to this land archaeologically for 3,800 years.
We can date the British people to their land much longer, much thousands of years longer. Stonehenge is 3,000 years older than any building built by the descendants of Abram in this country. And so it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's right. I'm just wanting you to affirm that right, but it makes you uncomfortable and you won't. And I don't know why.
Because I've never honestly sat down and asked myself, are the lines around the
It's an island,
United
so we know what the lines are.
I'm saying, but are those lines, are those rooted in something other than the historical connection? Well, great, then they should have it. But
And
that's
they
a
have a right
question.
to have it. But then you said if they can defend it, and if they can't defend it, they lose the right.
But I didn't say it was exclusive one or the other. I think you're really going off the
I
trail.
just want to know if these principles
No,
apply
it's
universally
not.
or if they only apply to the people of Israel.
We-
And my answer appears to be just the people of Israel are the only ones with these rights, and I just reject that.
I didn't say.
See what I mean? This is what they do. Look, you're really going on. Oh, you're really going off the trail. No, he's not. He's asking you questions that taxpayers like me want to know. I want to know the exact answers to the questions that he's asking you. Sorry, I had to start my truck up. It's getting a little cold out here. But I want to know the answers to the same questions, the same exact questions that Tucker is asking him. I want to know the same answers. Like, what makes it the same? What makes it different? How do you have rights to this land? Not you, not him. Huckabee is not Jewish or whatever. But how? I just don't get it.
That, but I'm saying we are talking about Israel. We're in Israel. We're talking about Christian Zionism because you've made some disparaging statements about Christian Zionists. You've apologized for them, for which I appreciate. And now we're trying to define Christian and Zionist. And it seems like we've gone way, way off
I'm
of
trying
that.
to get, as you suggested, as a former debater at the outset, I'm trying to get to terms and a common
Right.
understanding of what the words mean.
And the term
And I'm
Christian,
no closer to that than I was when I began.
you're not closer to the term Christian, what that means?
I think it's someone who follows Jesus. And
Okay.
that's my next question.
All right.
A lot of Christians in the West Bank, and there were a fair amount of Christians in Gaza, and some of them have been killed.
There were 5,000 in Gaza.
And two different churches were hit by the IDF. Christian Hospital was hit 7 times by the IDF. And I don't understand.
They were not hit 7 times. There were different, I know. And one of the times it was a rocket that was shot by Hamas. And all the news agencies reported that the IDF shot the rocket. They
Did
said
the IDF ever hit the hospital or the churches?
they did
Why?
accidentally and they apologized for it. And it was very unfortunate. But they
that's
also,
what you did.
you
Oh,
got to
thank you.
remember, there were times Hamas often hid caches of arms under hospitals.
Were you bothered
under-
by the fact that the IDF hit Christians?
I'm bothered that anyone got killed in Gaza. But you know why I'm
You're
bothered?
a Christian
Because
minister,
here's the
and
thing.
You can't say that the Christians are Islamic extremists.
No, but I
And
can say that
I
the
would
reason
to
to
side with the Christians over the secular government of Israel.
But I would look at it even more broadly. I would ask you this. Why was there so much suffering and continues to be suffering in Gaza? It's because Hamas, which could have built to Singapore, built to Haiti. They have a landmass the size of Las Vegas. They built tunnels underneath that are larger than the London Underground, over 500 miles of tunnels. They didn't build it to move people from one hospital to the other, one marketplace to the other, but to hide terrorists, to hide weaponry. And on October the 7th, they went over there and they massacred 1,200 civilians. Massacred, mutilated, humiliated them.
You're never going to get me to defend Hamas.
Please don't.
I'm not going to.
But I'm telling you,
I'm appalled by it. How many civilians have been killed by the IDF in Gaza?
we don't know. You know
What's
why
your
we don't
guess?
know?
What's your guess?
Well, the only numbers we have come from this dubious entity called the Gaza Health Ministry. You know who that is?
Well, why
It's
doesn't
Hamas.
Israel have some kind of count on it?
We also know that a lot of the people who were killed were, in fact, warriors. Sadly,
How many kids were killed?
we don't know.
What's your guess?
I don't know. I'm sure it was thousands. And it's thousands too
Thousands
many.
of kids were killed.
Some of the kids who were killed had been recruited to be in the military.
Oof.
Kids as young as 14
They were
years
terror
old.
kids. Did you hear yourself? I wonder.
I just said that there were kids as young as 14 that were recruited to be Hamas soldiers who were given arms.
Tucker said, "Do you hear yourself?" Tucker asked the questions. I love Tucker Carlson, man. My man be on that junk, man. Pause. I'm married. I'm not saying like in that way, but the way Tucker asks questions, you gotta appreciate it. You gotta appreciate. He said, "Do you hear yourself?" Jeez.
How do you feel about the
horrible.
kids being killed?
I think it's horrible. You know what I also think is horrible? I think it's horrible that 1,200 people
Can't
were
even-
slaughtered by the people.
Can't sit on it for 2 seconds. Can't pause. Can't sit on it and be like, "Oh, I think it's horrible," and stay there. But you know what else I think is horrible? Because you always have to defend this BS.
across the border, and 252 people were taken hostage. 48 of the 1,200 were Americans.
More.
And then when
Hamas
could have ended this on October the 8th and given all the hostages up, they didn't, leaving no choice.
You're never going to get me to defend Hamas.
I hope
I'm not pro-Hamas.
I hope
totally
not.
opposed to slaughtering innocents, whether Hamas does it or whether the government of Israel does it in much larger numbers. And the reason I'm opposed to it is because I'm a Christian and I believe that all souls are created by God.
I do not disagree with that wholeheartedly.
But I said how many children have been
war is a
killed?
horrible thing, period. And we don't know. We know that a lot of the numbers were reported.
But
by
you said
Hamas.
you think thousands of children have been killed.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know why they got killed? Because Hamas would gather up the children and put them in the targets. Do you know what Israel does? They send page messages and they send texts to every cell phone in Gaza, and they say, we're going to hit this particular target. They drop leaflets and they announce where they're going to hit. Nobody does that. The U.S. doesn't do that. Israel does that in order to prevent, let me finish this. They do this in order to prevent civilian casualties. What Hamas does, they say, oh, this is the target. And by gunpoint, they push people into those various places. And then when people get killed, they say, look, Israel just slaughtered these people, even though it was Hamas who moved them into harm's way, knowing that it was going to put them in a place of danger and death and destruction. And they do that because they don't care. You say you care about life. I care about life.
It's interesting that
they don't care about life.
I'm not saying that Hamas does. You're never going to get me to defend Hamas. I'm
good.
I'm anti-Hamas.
Said that 3 times, and I believe
your dig at the United States is very revealing.
Why is it revealing?
Because your priorities are very clear.
No.
Yes, they are.
No,
yes, they are. And as an American, permit me a moment of outrage, because I said many civilians have been killed. Yeah. And you said right in the middle of your elaborate defense of the IDF's killing of civilians, including children, you said they do a better job than the United States does. That's my country and my government.
It's my country. What flag am I wearing here?
Well, I'm asking, why is
what flag am I wearing?
Well, that's, of course, my flag as well.
And it's my flag. It's who I serve.
So why the dig at the United States?
It's not a dig at us. No. You've totally misrepresented.
What did you mean by that?
I did not take a dig at the U.S. What I'm saying is
the IDF is more humane than the U.S.
I'm saying
military.
No, I'm just saying that Israel takes steps that we don't take and no other country that I'm aware of takes to try to prevent. Because no matter what Israel does, they're going to get accused of genocide.
That may be right, and I'm
just telling you that they.
Then let me ask you on that question. That's such a politically loaded.
But I resent the idea that you think that I'm not loyal to the U.S.
Look, I'm not saying you're not loyal. I'm merely noting what you just said, which was that the IDF takes greater pains than the U.S. our military does to spare civilian lives. And I guess my question is, when was the last time the U.S. military killed this many civilians? Do you know?
Well, it could have been Nagasaki, Hiroshima. Could have been Iraq, Afghanistan. We don't know the full number.
I think most Christians would say all of those things were atrocities because innocents were killed in large numbers, and we don't believe in that. And so that's not really a defense, is it?
War is a horrible thing, Tucker, and there are people who end up, unfortunately, being killed that shouldn't have been. I would tell you that I wish that none of those people in Gaza had been killed after October 8th. Well, I say not none of them. I'm glad Mohammed Sinwar was killed.
If war is such a horrible thing, why are you trying to start a war with Iran? What did Iran do? Iran didn't do October 7th. You have been involved with 9 wars in 2025 that you started. So I thought war was a horrible thing. It seems like it's the thing to do for you.
Glad that some of those warriors, the people who masterminded and carried out the atrocities like
14-year-old Hamas operatives, how do you feel about their deaths?
If they participated in that, then God help them. I'm telling you,
what does that mean, God?
I don't know that they 14 years. No, but I'm telling you that when someone commits the acts of atrocity and then they hold hostages, if these were your children being held hostage in Gaza, what would you do to get them out?
I wouldn't want to kill 14-year-olds. I'll tell you that.
Let me ask you something. Would you do whatever it took to get your kids back if they were being tortured, raped, starved?
I would not kill children, period.
Well, I'm just telling you.
And I would never make excuses for killing children either.
And I'm not talking about targeting children. I'm talking about.
You told me that 14-year-olds deserve to die because they're working for Hamas.
I'm telling you.
My question is, can you hear yourself?
I do hear myself.
So do you think a 14-year-old child has agency? Do you think that he deserves to die because he's being used by adults? Isn't his death a crushing tragedy?
If he's holding a gun and he's pointing it at someone who's trying to save a hostage, and the only way to save that hostage, I'm telling you, war is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. And a lot of innocent people
I'm the one who thinks war is a horrible thing.
No. I think what you don't.
I'm trying to explain how horrible it is, and you're saying that the 14-year-old deserve to die. We don't execute 14-year-olds.
You're putting words in my mouth that
I don't know what you're saying.
You never said deserve to die.
Okay.
I say there are people who die that is unfortunate. Okay. But I'm saying that you are not giving Israel credit for having done everything they possibly could to a level that, quite frankly,
how about stop?
There has no
everything except stop. You got the hostages. You had ceasefires. You had reasons to stop. You can't stop now, but you won't stop. How about stop? You said you've done everything in your power except stop. How about that? Stop. Is that too hard? You can't stop, can you? Stop bombing people. Stop striking other nations. Just stop. You have no chill. Talking about you've done everything in your power. No, you haven't.
Been a war. I mean, it's criticized Israel, but it's a foreign country, and I would much rather criticize a foreign country than my own.
Feel free to do that. They can.
But you pivoted against our country.
No, Israel's done a better job.
You did.
No, I simply gave you the illustration, and I helped you understand that Israel goes to links that no other country, including ours, goes to in the middle of an urban war, and yet Israel ended up with fewer civilian deaths in an urban war than any urban war of record.
You said you didn't know how many civilian deaths there were, so how can you say that?
If you took Gaza's numbers, Hamas's numbers,
You know what the numbers were.
Bro, you just said don't trust them numbers.
But if you took the numbers that they reported, which is like 50,000, 24 or 25,000 of those were actual warriors, how many civilians? If you took
the
all of
numbers
them,
range from 120
No.
to 78. Those ones I just read, I don't know if that's real. I don't know either. I'm asking you.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, those numbers I've not heard, have not read. The numbers that I think are more reportable are somewhere in the 60,000 range.
Where do those come
from the Gaza Health Ministry,
But
which
you
is
said those were
Hamas.
valid numbers.
I think they are. I don't think that they're accurate, but I'm saying let's
You're
just
saying
assume
they're inaccurate, but they prove that Israel's
No,
doing
I'm
a
saying
great job.
let's assume that the most widespread numbers, the largest numbers that have been reported out of Gaza by Hamas,
Yes.
let's assume they're true. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they are true, but assume they're true. Let's just take them at their word. Then you still have a lower number of civilians killed than in any urban warfare environment in modern history. Fact.
Is that a fact?
Yes.
What are you comparing it to?
To any urban
Name
warfare.
one.
Iraq.
Where?
Afghanistan.
Where in Iraq? Where in Afghanistan? There are many urban areas in Afghanistan. I don't think there was any fighting in urban areas in Afghanistan.
Kabul.
I don't know. Were there pitched battles in Kabul over long periods of time? I don't.
20 years.
In Kabul?
Throughout all of Afghanistan.
But what were those rates?
You're talking about what are the rates there?
You
The
just.
number of people who were killed
Uh-huh.
into the tens of thousands. I'm asking you to.
I don't know the answer. I've never heard of any of this. You brought it up. You said the IDF has killed a lower proportion of civilians in urban warfare than in any urban conflict in
Yeah.
modern history. I'd never heard that before. I don't know what are the controls for that. And you said, well,
Would you agree that
the
the-
U.S. military killed more civilians.
Would you agree that the real tragedy was that Hamas continued to force this war?
Hold on. You just
way
once
beyond-
again said that the IDF is more humane than the United States military. You just said that. You said in Iraq and Afghanistan, the U.S. military killed more civilians than the IDF did. You just told me. I never heard that before. And my question is, how do you know that? What are those numbers?
And I'm trying to explain to you that there were extraordinary efforts to keep
You
the
don't know
number
the numbers, do you?
I think they were tens of thousands. I'll get them for you.
Well, you brought it up. That's the only reason I'm pushing
But
you.
you,
Guys, we are in some tremendously dangerous times. Dangerous, but not nothing to be afraid of. Just be aware of this stuff. Be aware of what you're hearing. Be aware of what you're seeing. If your intuition doesn't tell you that this man is lying, and this man is telling the truth, and this man is full of it, like good Lord. Good Lord. I can't even keep watching this. I can't keep watching this. I got to get back to work anyway. Y'all, I love y'all. Stay prayerful, stay up. Be aware of what's happening here. Be aware of that what the plan is. Tucker pointed out very well, perfectly. He pointed out that the scriptures actually say you're supposed to have more land. So what's preventing you? Or is that plan C, plan D, plan F, plan E, F? I'm sorry. Like, it's just going to keep evolving. Like, that's insane. That's insane. And the whole thing is, here's the thing. I'm against it. Yes. I'm really against it when we're spending our tax dollars on that. I'm against it because we are tied to this demonic movement. We're tied to it. We're just as much guilty of it as they are, actually. Because we're supporting it. We can't keep supporting it. We can't. I don't want to support it. It's sick. It's crazy. I don't know what they have on our political leaders. I told you what I think about the Epstein files. Like, I think he's still alive in Israel. So therefore, they're gonna be like, oh, well, we don't know. So our government is now have lied to us again. So what? Y'all lied to us? What? We never seen you do that before. So our government has lied to us again. So now, therefore, we have to keep doing stuff for this foreign nation that are doing bad things and evil things with our dollars. Meanwhile, in our cities, our states, we got stuff falling apart, streets tore up, people can barely survive, people going to work, doing this, doing that, getting taxed to oblivion, over 50%. We add it all up. People doing DoorDash, Uber Eats, on top of their main job, not spending time with your family. So therefore, the TikToks, the social medias, the Instagram is raising your kids. Instagram got your girl. Shout out to Ye. Like all of that is going on because we're not home. We're out working, trying to survive. I'm working later and later and later. Doubles, side job, hustling over here, doing this, doing that, just to survive. When we could just take a reduction in our taxes and stop giving money to other countries. We can stop. I understand sometimes we have to help, but something when it's just constantly doing stuff for certain countries, we're going into another war. We've spent trillions on wars for Israel. It's a fact. It's a fact. We've been in so many wars. Enough. We don't. Why do we have beef with people way over there? Think about that. Because our ally got beef with people way over there. Let them fight their own battles. That's what I'm saying. If they feel like scripturally, like they're due all of this land, okay, good luck. Go get it. Go get it without your big brother. Fighting all your battles. And y'all just be careful because one day, every bully gets popped in the nose. Every bully eventually gets. My son, he's going to school. My daddy told me the same thing. If somebody's bullying you, you need to punch them right in the nose. If they bigger than you, it don't matter. Just catch them off guard. Bow! Hit them right in the nose. And when you do that, and that nose bleed, that pain is debilitating for a few seconds. And do it in front of everybody, that's going to make them chill. That's going to make them stop. You got them. And sometimes the bully need to get punched in the nose. And I fear that's coming. I don't even fear that's coming. I feel that's coming. So they need to chill. They need to be careful. Let me tell you something. You're trying to go into war in Iran. And one day I'll pull up the map of Iran. Iran is located in the center of mountains. It's mountains all around Iran. Like you can't get a tank to go up these mountains. You're not getting an airline. So everything got to be by air. You're not like sending people through these mountains and jungles and forests. You can't do it. So what are they going to do? That's not an easy win. That's not a 2-week war. It's going to be a long drawn out war, and they just careful what you wish for because you just might get it. Careful what you wish for, you just might get it. All right, I got to go to work. I love y'all. God bless y'all. God bless America. That's what I'm here for. I'm American. Stop the division. Stop saying left, right, the Democrats, the Republicans, the liberals, conservatives, and they're crazy. No, they're crazy. They're crazy. No, forget all that. That's all divisive. It's all a division tactic to make us miss what we should be focusing on, which is these type of issues like Tucker just focused on. I love y'all. Peace out. Johnny America out.